And welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. Today's episode, we'll be discussing catching you up on some of the more recent patches and updates in Escape from Tarkov. And then, for the bigger part of our cast today, we'll be talking about Gray Zone Warfares. It's been all the rave within the Tarkov eco space, and there's a closed test going on that we'll discuss, and et cetera, et cetera. And if we got time for some other stuff, maybe we'll chat it up. But yeah, so it's been recording this on a Monday. Had to change things back around, flip things up.
hmm
Okay, you just got back from a holiday. Have you been well
Yeah,
rested?
that's the thing. It's like I was off on Friday, and it's hard like with the schedule. Like I did have somebody talking on Twitter about it, just being like, "Oh, it's so hard to like keep track." And I'm just like, "Oh, I know, I understand. Like it's difficult because if we've got like if I'm not here, then we have to like, re-record it at a different time or whatever. So it's nice to do it on the same pattern. But I think we'll get back to it soon. I haven't actually even said to you yet because I forgot that I'm away this Friday as well, which is a shame because I'm going to be at the Birmingham Dota, which is going to be
Oh,
quite
cool.
fun. It's going to be cool, but it means that we're going to be disrupted again. But I guess it sort of is okay because then like this is late, like this is
Right,
on
right.
Tuesday or whatever. And so if we did one on Friday, then it's probably too close. So we'll probably do one early next week or at the weekend or whatever, something like that. But yeah, either way, no, it was good. It was a good break. I feel like it's weird actually because we've gone from Turkey Land being in just kind of like, doing the thing
Hmm.
to the Grey Zone test coming up, me being away for a week, getting back as the test was like starting, in like this, its third day or whatever. I literally haven't played Tarkov at all since like not last week, nothing last week, and then
Hmm.
Thursday before that. So like I feel like very disconnected from the Tarkov ecosystem for the first time in ages and ages and
Mm.
ages because we were like really busy when we were as well. We went to a place called Butlins, which is like basically like a family holiday kind of place, and they had like a special thing with the guy who plays Mr. Tumble, a beloved children's TV guy, and he was there doing some shows and stuff. So we were like super busy. I like brought a headset with me or whatever because I'd intended to watch some of the Fallout TV show. Every single night I was just like absolutely knackered and just going to bed immediately. It was actually really full on, but it was good. It was like great for the family, like really cheap as well,
Uh-huh.
and much better than I was expecting. But yeah, I've like hardly been able to keep up with what's going on because we were so busy in the day,
Hmm.
which is good. And it's good to get a proper break because like I never usually take a break like that. So it's been decent. But yeah, going from that straight into Grey Zone has been like kind of weird. But we'll talk enough about Grey Zone in a bit. Have you been doing other bits of bobs? You've been playing some more Helldivers, I imagine. Been
Mostly
what's
more
going on?
Helldivers, yeah. It's just such a good game. Like I just appreciate it more and more every day. I mean, it does kind of get, you know, a
Hmm.
little, I don't want to say old, but it can be somewhat repetitive, but it's just fun
Yeah.
getting in there with
Yeah, you
group
get
of
into the groove of
friends.
it and then like you know what to expect and like use the same stuff, whatever, and you're like
Yeah.
you kind of figured out the strategies, but it's still fun to do anyway, because the gameplay loop is like fun. You're still
Hmm.
improving as well. That's the thing that we won't linger on it too much, but the thing that I enjoyed about it was just like seeing how much I'd improved from when I first started playing towards, you know, like playing now. It's just like we're just so much better as a
Yeah.
team and individually, like our skills just like gone up so much, which is cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's room to improve even further. Like
Exactly.
especially with some of the newer content they added to make it more challenging. It's
Mm.
fun.
Yeah, it should be. It's good stuff. It's really
Yeah.
good stuff.
All
So
right.
Tarkov wise, from the things that I've managed to like try and keep myself up on, we have had a few bits and pieces. I think I literally just saw some like boss spawn rate changes. I think it was coming out from Logical up to like
Yeah.
35% or something. So that's nice if you're hunting bosses, and that's pretty good. There was an event actually on at the moment that like I had. Well, it's finished now, but I think Killer was spawning all the time
Oh yeah,
potentially.
that's right.
Sure.
I did
Um,
see that.
so that was like they're starting to do more of those kind of things here and there. But the main bulk of the news was the audio patches stuff that they've been doing. They originally put through a an audio patch which changed the way that crouch walking functioned. Is this one? Which one have you got up there? This is
Mm,
I think this might be the second one.
I think you
Yeah.
might
So
be right.
I don't know where the first one was. I actually tried to look for it, but I couldn't see it. So the first patch that they put through, it doesn't really matter too much. But the first one that they put through, it finally changed crouch walking to be audible for everybody, and the range of crouch walking audibility was like huge. It was like enormous, which was kind of weird, and it changed up like a lot of the way that the audio sounded in lots of different situations. And people were saying like, okay, now you've changed it from 0 meters to 20 meters or whatever it was. This is now like way too much, and the difference between the headsets is still too big, and the sounds between walking and running is still too much. So anyway, then they posted this technical update afterwards, which, as it says here, you can, those who are watching on video, you'll be able to see it, but it basically says that list of changes: reduce the hearing sounds in crouch position by 50% for other players. So like, it literally had to be halved or whatever. Like, it does make me wonder about how this gets implemented. Like, I wonder how the sound of these things is set in game. Like, I imagine it isn't just a number like 20 meters, right? Like, I think 20 meters, 10 meters, I presume that that's just like an emergent distance that comes out of the sound properties that they set, I imagine. They probably have to sort of iterate on it a bit to actually get to where they want to be. So I think that's like a bit better. Reduce the difference of maximum hearing radius of footsteps and voice depending on the active headset used. So as I understand it, that has dramatically decreased the difference between the various headsets now. And like I haven't actually, because I've not had a chance to play with it yet. I've got Airwings tested because he made a video about it yesterday. So if you want the full information, like, go and watch his video. But there was some like basics that he had up on his screen, which was aiming down sight with no headset was like 16 to 19 meters if you depending on the gun. With contact fours on, it was like 25 to 36 meters, and Swordins was 24 to 35 meters. So it was
It's a
almost
lot better.
identical.
Because I
Yeah, it was
remember,
like, yeah, go on, go on.
sorry, I was gonna say that I remember initially that first audio patch that came out, which I think, anyways, someone made a post on Twitter talking about like 52 meters. You could hear someone ADSing, which was like, kind
Yeah,
of, or
it's kind of
something. I can't
insane.
remember what it was, but yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like weapon actions. So I think that's like zeroing and scope changes and that kind of stuff. It was like no headset 27, contact force 29, Swordins
Hmm.
29. Like spinning around while you're crouching, no headset 16 meters, contact force 26 meters, Swordins 24 meters. So there's like a small advantage. And that advantage, it now might be, as Nikita talked about in the interview recently to Pestily, maybe it's now like as he intended, which is, yeah, contact force have more ambient suppression. So you can hear that extra 2 meters because it just
Right.
comes through over the wind or the hiss or whatever. Like, that sounds more realistic now. Um, Standing up and spinning seemed to be the same with headsets, but with no headset, you could hear a lot, like at the same distance as the regular headsets, if that makes sense. So, like, if someone's scratched down and spinning, you won't hear them with no headset, but you will with a regular headset. If they're stood up, it doesn't matter whether you're wearing a headset or not; you'll still hear them.
Hmm.
So it's like quite interesting. So yeah, like crouching is like 10 meters now, 15 meters and 16 meters with Swordins. That's like min speed crab walking kind of thing. So 15 meters is probably what you need to kind of be working on. Walking min speed is, if I'm reading this right, I think so no headset 33 meters. Swordins and contacts is 53 and 54 meters. And then walking full speed is like 58 meters and 61. And then running was like 63 and 68. I think the difference between walking and running is still too close. Like, it
Yeah.
needs to go from like, crouch walking to
Mm-hmm.
crouching to normal walking to running. It needs to be like more evenly spaced. At the moment, the walking is so close to running, it actually just incentivizes you kind of just to run everywhere if people can hear you walking anyway. Because like that was always the thing in Tarkov. You could hear running from miles away, right? So people would walk to not be heard. But now you get all the advantages of speed with none of the disadvantages of hearing if those sound effects are like too close to each other. So that to me seems to be kind of the only like main issue with this. But supposedly it's a lot better anyway, the way it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the
So
sentiment I've
yeah.
been seeing.
And so now you can hear the crouch walking. We're gonna have to see what that ends up sounding like, because yeah, if you can hear, how does that actually work then? So you can hear the crouch walking from 15 meters. You can hear the spin from 25 meters. So you're still incentivized to not do the spin noise, right? You don't want to stand perfectly still. So standing still and making sure your feet don't turn, that will be silent, obviously. If you move, you could be heard from 50 meters. If you stand still and let the crunch happen, then you'll be heard from 25. So you're still incentivized to crouch walk, but like 15 is quite a long way. I wonder what yeah, it's just very interesting. Like cuz that's like further than it used to be for like min speed walking. So, I don't know. But we'll see what the emergent gameplay is after that, whether people are just like stationary and don't move at all, or whether it will help a little bit with being able to like move around or whatever. But like, yeah, some of the maximum audio distances have come down a little bit at least. You know, running at 68 meters with contact force, that's a bit better than it was before. It's still a long way. It's still a really, really long way, but it's, yeah, not as good. It's not, sorry, it's not as harsh as it was previously. So look, we're moving in the right direction, right? They're listening. They put a patch out. Everybody hated it, and they changed it again. So you know, they're listening to people, so that's fine. And there's a couple of other random ones. They just like fix some bugs with it. A high frequency sound artifact, such as weapon impact or hitting bushes. Fixed issue where sound of weapon operations would be audible through thick walls, and an issue where the sound of a container searching would play incorrectly in first person. I think that's maybe where it just goes on forever. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's quite interesting. There was some more. Let me have a look from the end of this patch. There were some other people who were showing some of the testing that they'd done, which was perception level 31, 28 kilogram player. You could hear a nade pull from 30 meters away. This is Skeppy, by the way, one of the ITB guys. Contact 4s was 26 meters for ADS, and contact 2s for 24 meters. So that really shows you like the difference. Crouch walking, 15 meters down to 13 meters between contact 4s and contact 2s. So like the gap between them is just like nowhere near as big as it was. So yeah, like I think it's not even like 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. This is just like some of the things are the same. Like walking is still too close to running, but the difference between the headsets is lower and crouch walking is now audible, which is what people wanted. I'm still like kind of like impartial on the debate about whether it should or should not be audible. I kind of agree with the you shouldn't be able to like move for free, but like I also see the ramifications of that, like the collateral that comes with that, right? The unintended sort of side effects of having people always make sound no matter what. But at least it's 15 meters. It's a bit further than I would have liked, but I think broadly speaking, it's probably fine. So now really it's just like walk speed versus run speed, in my opinion. So that was what those guys did. Then there was another patch. Well, yes, it's kind of a patch. This is more of like they called it balancing changes, but they've added a bunch of barters to the game. Now, I've not inspected them all in depth, but from what I've what I've heard so far, it is rather suspect in terms of what they've done. Like some of the basically the barters just like really suck, in the long and the short of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple here. Like, I mean, they look cool, and it's kind of like the resolution's janky, but they look cool. Like the Sim 4, like that's a cool looking build. I would probably never use anything like that. Maybe it's like a meme build or something. But yeah, you do want like 2 of these. What are they? MCBs or no? What is this one?
Yeah,
This is the one.
microcontroller board. Yeah.
Is that what it is? Or
Oh,
is
it's
that
not military circuit board. Yeah, it's microcontroller board. It's also
okay?
MCB, but I don't think
Oh,
it. Yeah,
okay. That's why I
it's
was
a
okay.
special labs one.
Yeah, the labs military. I mean, micro. Sorry. This one's also like a really cool looking scar with like the black and tan accents on it, but like
It's
it's
like
missing the scar rear like shoulder cheek rest, which gives like ergo or something. Like so, like I don't. It's just like I don't know. It's like who does? I don't know. It's someone's probably like, but it just looks so cool or whatever. I was like, yeah, I mean it does, but like I just can't ever justify it for 2 MCBs, you know. Same with this M4, but a lot of them are like that. Like they're just like very expensive, these high rare tech items. And I presume that is going to be an event related thing. I don't know. No idea about that. You know, BSG and their
I think that's what a
nefarious
lot of people had
ways.
expected. Yeah, like the one you've got on screen right now, which is a LEDX for effectively a souped up SOP mod M4. Like it's not a SOP mod M4, but it's got like one of the muzzle brakes that nobody has ever used ever. It's probably like one of the Nevesque
I
ones or
think it's a
something like.
Claymore muzzle
Is it
brake.
Claymore? Like
I
nobody
think.
ever uses these things. It's got like a gunfighter grip, I think, or something. It's got some like laser IR laser thing. It's got the scope that everybody hates on it, and the Daniels defense stock. So, and it's for like Athletics. Like, why? It's just really weird. I don't know what's inside this thing, but it doesn't really matter. It could be the X15 upper and whatever. It just doesn't make any difference. It's very strange. So yeah, who knows what that's about? Maybe there's a tech event, as you say. I think that's what most people are speculating. It's like, surely it can't just be this. Surely this can't be the update. Why? Who thought this up? Like, otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like just everything. There's some armors and stuff, but even those are expensive. Like it was kind of weird because they added the Tasmanian tiger as a Ragman 4 barter, which I think you unlock via like you
Is
unlock
it
the
long
barter.
line?
It is long line.
I think it's long line, yeah. And people
So
only did it for the plates anyway.
yeah, I don't remember what the barter is for this particular thing. Whatever this is, update, balance change. I mean, they listed as balance change, but it's like the worst balance change you could have done. I don't know, man. You know, VSG, they're wild.
Yeah.
There was also this other update that I didn't realize there was some barter. So, like, they increased. Let's see, when was this? I think this was in between. Yeah, okay, so this was like on the 16th of April. So this was like previous to the previous barters we covered.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I forgot about this one.
But in short, the just loot spawn on the streets, increase the chance of rare loot spawning in locked rooms and decrease in other areas, and then added a chance to spawn Terror Group blue folder materials at various facilities related to Terror Group. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Mhm.
Also, they were just like really hard to find, was my understanding. I don't think I've ever seen one in game at all. Period.
Same. They were like 30 mil on the fleet, and you needed 2 of them for like super quests.
Fun. Adjust the loot interchange at the Ultra Medical Storage, as well as Kiva Arm Store, added a chance to spawn ballistic plates and relevant equipment. Also, really like those two changes. Ultra Med used to be like the spot to be back in the day, and Kiva's always kind of been like sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not. But the fact that they got like plate spawning in there, I think that's great. Let's see, just the loot room opened the bloody rusted key on the streets of Tarkov, so I guess they fixed keys not spawning in there. Maybe they just made keys spawn more. I don't know. Proof BNC spawns are reserved to avoid spawning in exposed areas. I have not seen anything about this. Who
That's
knows?
probably good,
Yeah, maybe.
honestly. Like, if you hear nothing, I would usually take that as a good sign because
Yeah.
it's not just like, oh, look at this new update. Oh, it's completely borked. Like, if that's like non-existent, they've probably done a good job.
See, now I feel like I'm gaslighting myself into thinking that I did see something negative about it, but maybe I really am just gaslighting myself. Yeah, you're probably right though.
Yeah.
You'll
And
have
then
to investigate for me.
yeah, exactly. And then there's like a billion different barters that they've added, which is kind of cool. Again, like I haven't gone through like painstakingly looked at like what all these are. Most of them are like gunsmith type ones, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
So the hybrid mount, I mean, I think that's quite early anyway, but I think that's like mechanic 2 or something. So normally I don't think I've ever done the barter for the hybrid mount. Like there's the hybrid barter for the RAM, but I don't remember when the actual like mounted up to ears. But then we've got like the Furfran CRD, that's like a classic gunsmith like blocker, like gatekeep,
Mm-hmm.
because half the time it's just not on the fleet at all. Like you just can't pay any amount of money to get it. So that's like, a big problem. The P226 stainless elite pistol slides, same thing for that. The Chris Vector rail, that's another one that's a gunsmith.
Very expensive as well.
Yeah, super, super expensive. What else? Oh, the Circle 10 mag, that's another gunsmith. Reap-IR scope iCup, I'm not sure about that one. Stainless elite wood grip is gunsmith. The M-Lock rails, I thought they were on Mechanic 1 anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought those were already on Mechanic 1 to buy in cash, so I don't really understand why those are there. And then, yeah, the 16 barrel for the Vector is the same. And I think the HK one as well. I think you need both of those for Gunsmith too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just like stopping those items from being flea only and like 300,000 each,
Yeah.
which is probably good. because
Yeah.
you could do it kind of, on your own. I feel that there's some nice changes here to make you a bit more self-sufficient. Like in amongst
Mhm.
all of this, another thing that I saw that maybe isn't in the patch notes that has happened is this again, this probably happened like a week ago because we haven't been able to cover it yet. Was the removal of the global limits. So you can now like buy whatever, like you're just on your
Yeah.
own. So the global limits are like completely gone,
Kinda
which is
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. It's like it makes a big difference to the game in that everybody enjoys it more. Like there's almost no downside to removing it really. And it's just like anybody who is on all the time already has enough of the things that are limited because they can sit there
Yeah.
and get the traders.
Practically.
Anybody
Right.
who doesn't play enough can now buy the items that they couldn't buy before. So like everybody just is able to stop coming to traders, and some people are able to now buy things that they couldn't previously. It's just like
It
I
felt
can't. Yeah,
it felt like it disproportionately hurt average gamers.
yeah, and I just can't think of anybody that like gets hurt by this. Like it just
Mhm.
seems good. Like again, it's one of those things where I understand like where they were coming from in the
Yeah, I mean,
first
it was a
place.
cool
Like
idea
yeah, it's a cool
ish.
idea, but like practically speaking, it just doesn't really make sense in the way that the game is.
Right.
It's like the game is like supposed to be ultra realistic, and therefore we're going to pretend that you don't have a life outside of the game. Like it's not really sensible. Like it's still a game. You can't be your actual real life. So you got to make allowances for that. I've got a couple of people in chat saying that a lot of these were for people playing hardcore. You can't buy from the traders because I guess like
For
you
the
just couldn't get through it otherwise.
barters.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I wonder actually whether that's something to do with this like potential hardcore like playtest
Mayhaps.
thing that Pestely's got up his sleeve, maybe
Mayhaps.
because they might have to put a few things through. And like this doesn't really affect. I mean, it's nice for Gunsmith, but it doesn't really affect the base game like all that much. So it's just good. Just making things more available is decent. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, global limits is gone, which is nice and cool. So I think yeah, that's as much as I was aware of. Was there anything else? As I said, like I've been so like scatty with like checking and seeing what's been coming out. I've only seen like piecemeal things through the week.
I really can't say. I mean, there was like a tournament, but I mean, so far out of anything what's going on there. Maybe it's still going on. No, okay. There was an arena
Was that
tournament, Team
Rivals?
Hambino. Yeah, rivals Trey, Vibin, Desmond, Velian, and Hambino. Looks like they won.
Hmm.
So
I
shout
do
out to
find it
them.
hilarious. At any time there's an arena tournament,
Mm-hmm.
Trey is like in the winning team pretty much every
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, super skilled and teams up with like some other super skilled people, so they're all really good. Like every time he like plays the game, wins the tournament, then it's just like, yeah, I've uninstalled. It's like every time he tweets about it, and I'm just like, oh my god. It's like I don't even know how to feel about it. It's just like it's just the whole thing's just like slightly awkward. I'm like, oh man. Oh
Wait, like
dear.
he actually uninstalled?
Yeah, because he doesn't play Arena, right? And he doesn't really like Arena that much. So he's like
Oh, I see. I
does
see.
the tourney,
Mm-hmm.
ends up winning the tourney. I think this happened last time as well. Wins the tourney, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's just like, GG's, thanks for the win. I've uninstalled the game again.
Yeah, no comment.
It's great. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like it makes me feel uncomfortable. Just like I don't know. It's just like I was just like I can't. I think it's because I can't imagine myself ever like saying it. It's just not the way I am. So I'm just like, oh my god, it's like so kind of I don't know, brazen, I guess, but
Mm-hmm.
it's quite funny at the same time. So I don't know. I don't know. Odd stuff. But yeah, I didn't manage to catch that either, obviously, because we're being super busy. So yeah, Land continues to bumble on and do its thing. We'll see what happens with the emergent audio. I mean, I'll go back to playing some more of this because, like, I think part of the reason why a lot of people are very much like all in on Grey Zone is because it's so limited right now. So, like, the play
Mm-hmm.
test is Thursday the 18th through to the 25th. So, if you don't play now, you're not going to be able to play. And it's like, well, given it's a like limited time, like maybe they extended or something, I don't know. But in the absence of an extension, I think people are like, we should try and play test this as much as we can now because like the game actually legitimately might be good, and we need to give the devs like, you know, more feedback, more ideas, you know, get as far in progression as possible. And like some people I know have got like really super far in the progression, as like fast as they can. They're kind of like speed running. I know like Nice Guy in particular and a few other people as well, like just pushing, which is good, right? You want some people to go like super far, some people to play like more normally. You get like a good spread of different people and people running into different issues as they go through. So as a very broad overview from what you've seen and the small amount that you've managed to play,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think so far?
So I mean, I watched maybe like 4 hours in total, sporadically. Mostly Jesse, and then I watched you a bit when you came back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I mean, it looks really good, like graphically speaking, but I just don't know. I mean, purely from looks, it just didn't really look all that compelling to me. Like, one thought I had is like you flying in the helicopter back and forth
Mm-hmm.
a lot. I mean, not a lot, but you know, it's something you got to do to get from point A to point B, right? Like your base.
Yeah.
And like at first it's kind of cool, like it's novel, but like after a while it's kind of like I would almost like rather it be a loading screen, you know? It's like what is it really if it's going to be like a 5-minute flight from all the way here to all the way back there, you know? It's like I would almost rather just like fade to black and then it load teleport me there and load the assets, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like like I said, the first couple times I think it's cool.
Yeah.
But like afterwards, I don't know. So there's things like that. Like I just don't know if like the mill sim, because this feels like it's leaning more into mill sim. You know?
Yeah, kind of. I know because I've not played Armor,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people are talking about Armor and how it feels a bit more like that. And you know, Daisy is like based originally on Armor,
Yeah.
on Armor 2, and it feels to me a lot more like Daisy than it does Tarkov. Like just in the way that the game plays and the way that the game feels.
Kind of. I
It's
mean, like
like
I
if
know what you're saying.
yeah, it's like it's not the same
Mm-hmm.
really. It's like it's kind of a bit of both. Like that's the thing. It's halfway in between Tarkov and Daisy, I think.
You're saying like they Daisy-ified Tarkov as much as you could,
Kind
with still keeping it
kind
like
of, yeah. It's funny. It's like
Tarkov.
they've like solved some problems, but they've I think like Karmakit was talking about this the other day, saying like they've kind of opened up their own issues, their own
Mm-hmm.
unique problem. Like Grayson has its own unique problems to solve. A bit like what you were talking about with the chopper. It's like the way that you interact with the map, right? You're on in your base, you call in a helicopter and you go somewhere else. Well, this is good because you're in the game the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's more interesting than sitting in the loading screen in like EFT. It's more interesting than having auto sprint on and running across the map on DayZ.
Sure.
It's better from a story, like even just from a, you know, as an individual player, like not even from a creative perspective, but that's also true. Just like the story of that session, because you can meet the same players multiple times, like you can in Rust or in DayZ, but it shortens the cycle down a lot from DayZ because you can take a helicopter back. So then
Mm-hmm.
this is like, okay, well, this is good because you can get back in the action. It's not like one raid and done like it is in EFT. And once one person dies,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the end of the raid. It fixes that. And it fixes the running simulator thing from Daisy too, and to a certain extent, like not completely, but to a
Yeah.
certain extent,
Yeah.
enough to make it like not a running simulator like
Mm-hmm.
Daisy is at times, um, and makes it a lot better for squad play. But as you say, it introduces this issue of sometimes the helicopter flight is like quite long, and the problem with that is that you can't really get rid of that. Like that's like fundamentally intrinsic to the game. Because if the helicopter flight was shorter, then you'd be able to get back to your body straight away, and it wouldn't really make any difference
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah, that's true.
PMC base you're near. So it's like, yeah, it does feel kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's sort of necessary to like have that like time delay to stop people from just infinitely respawning in front of another PMC base or in one of the hotspots or whatever. And it's just like whoever has the most gear in their stash slash can buy stuff quickly for the traders to get back to it. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you almost need like an inbuilt time delay to stop it from just being like insane. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, well that's fine, but yeah, we do have to just sit in the chopper. Like I fully appreciate your point of view on that because you do just have to sit there. There's like nothing
Mhm.
else that you could do. Yeah, you can look at the map and you can talk to your squad and whatever, but you can't like. I mean, maybe if you could like remotely order your stash around or something while you're sat in the helicopter, that might be
Well,
like an improvement. Or, but I don't
yeah, I
know.
mean, I just don't know. Like, I'm just if the purpose, like, I mean, I don't want to spend too much on this point, but it's just like, what is this actually doing? Like, what's the purpose here? Like the aspect of getting, this, you're in like a real space, so like the world's living and breathing, you're in it. I get that. Um, but at a certain point, it's like if this is just solely for immersion, you know what I mean? Like I can suspend my disbelief enough. I don't need to see the helicopter flight. Like, can it be? Is it interactable? Am I invulnerable in the helicopter? That's another thing I don't know. Like, if you're not invulnerable, then
You actually are until the
okay. So
moment you step out.
that's even more kind of like, I don't know, just something. It's also just a clarification. What is this officially called? Is this a closed?
It's a closed alpha, I think,
Okay,
like alpha
closed alpha.
playtest or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to like clarify that because I've heard a lot of different things and I just don't
I
know
don't think
what.
it really matters, but yeah, like
It
it's the
doesn't
alpha
really
playtest.
matter, but if I want to be critical, I want to try
True.
to be fair as possible.
Yeah. So it's
So
an alpha
maybe,
playtest, so it's like very, very early.
yeah, so maybe that's like, something they could change or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's like, uh, yeah. Ultimately, from what I saw, I really just didn't think it was all that. Like, I think my main gripe, honestly, is that it feels like it borrowed way too much from Tarkov. Like,
Hmm.
and I've seen people like push back against this. Um, and like there's definitely a certain amount of truth. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Like there's no need to really. If something works fine, it's why change it. Um, but like, I don't know. It's like I really just dislike. There feels like a certain essence of a lack of innovation, and I don't know what the, like. I understand you can't like it. It's this space. I really like. The more and more I've spent in time in this space, the more I like have grown to dislike this genre of like. I'm just gonna call it generalize and call it milsim. Like
Mm.
simulators in general, I think I just kind of don't like. Um, because it just makes it hard to like do anything really creative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Your
feels
hands are
too
tied a
it
lot
feels too
by like the
limiting.
realism thing.
Yeah, I just like give me fantasy or sci-fi. Like those are like that's like the sweet spot for me because you get a little bit of like source material that's based in real life, and then you get make believe stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
Anyways, um, so yeah, it's like, oh yeah, some people are making jokes like, "Oh my god, they have a gun. They copied Tarkov. Look, I'm a PMC. They copied Tarkov." It's like that's not really what. Like, I think that's a bit of a straw man. I think the criticism is
Hmm.
like, uh, just like the actual like gameplay loop is like pretty much similar. There's traders, you buy stuff, you sell stuff, you get quests, go here, plant the thing, go back, shoot bad guys, extract, take loot. I think the parts that they did change is it seems like what they have now. I don't know if this is going to change, but and I haven't played a lot. I've only played like less than 2 hours. It seems like looting was like really a small part of the game, and there's not like duct tape and stuff like that. It's like food, backpacks, and
Yeah.
maybe there's a weapon crate somewhere, which I haven't seen anything like that. But again, I only played 2 hours. I didn't even finish a quest, so um, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
overall, I'll stop yapping. But it looked mid when I played it. It felt very mid. It also did not run well, which definitely is a hindrance
Hmm.
to my impression. Um,
Yeah. It's like playing Streets all the time, like and slightly worse than that on most
slightly.
people's computers.
I was getting like 40 FPS, but
Mm.
I had to turn on. FSR to use, which is AMD's upscaling solution, to use frame generation from AMD,
Mhm.
which gives you like fake frames, which like
Yeah.
helped the image look smoother ish, but it still was like playing at 40 FPS. Like it was
Yeah.
a
So
nightmare shooting at stuff.
off stream,
Hmm.
my system was getting like 55,
Yeah, I
which
could
was
see that.
okay. With frame generation, I was getting 85,
Hmm.
but huge input lag.
Hmm.
So I had to turn it off.
Yeah,
I'd rather
yeah.
play at like 50, 55, like 45 scoped in. Like the,
Hmm.
the scope, the scope picture. I mean, we're getting kind of too technical here, but like the scope picture in picture, like FPS drop seems lower than EFT. I think there's like it's maybe slightly more optimized because it's only rendering like this tiny little bit. And I was using like an ACOG. Um, but yeah, like some people are getting like crazy FPS, but some people are running like 4090s, which seems to make a huge difference with a UE5 game. Like there's a lot of people running like pretty normal CPUs that would also run Tarkov well, but then they've got 4090 and it's like the game runs at like 150 FPS. But some of those people have actually really got, 80 FPS and they're using frame gen. So it's like hard to
Yeah,
tell. It's
yeah.
hard to tell like what people are actually doing. It's like very, very tricky. It's like sometimes a little bit misleading in that way. But okay, so like overall, like so going back to the Tarkov thing,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with copying another game's systems that work well. The thing that I probably dislike about Greyzone the most at the moment is copying things from Tarkov that have kind of already proved to be like problematic
Hmm.
or just not good.
Okay,
So
let's hear.
the gameplay loop, so copying the UI, that's completely fine. Copying the gun modding system, that's completely fine. Like all of that stuff works like you can make some adjustments yourself. Like there's and I will say this actually, it did make me appreciate Tarkov's UI a lot. Like the
Hmm.
changes to the UI that they've made over the past like 4 years
Hmm.
have changed a lot of things about the game. Like the game is way easier to play. It's way smoother to play. There's a lot of quality of life stuff that's come now. When you play something like Greyzone, which is like really early, they're like just
Hmm.
try to get the build out. Like you can't like control click items between cases. You can't search backpacks on the ground. You have to be holding them. There's like
Yeah.
there's so many things that like you play this and you're like, actually EFT has got like a lot of good stuff now. There's
Hmm.
one singular thing that found, and like this is fair enough, right? Like the game is literally in like early alpha, like closed testing versus a game that's been out for like 8 years. Basically 8. I know it's in beta, but like, it's been worked on for 8 years or whatever. So it's like kind of unfair to compare them like for like and be like, oh, look at all the quality of life missing. I think it's just important to point them out. But there's one thing that Greyzone is better than Tarkov in one thing in the UI, which is you don't need to leave a slot for your mag. It replaces one mag with another.
Yes, but see, like the thing about that I thought is like I feel like in Tarkov, I can make the I can connect the realism dots a bit more. I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense, and maybe that's just Tarkov logic telling me otherwise. Because I guess you could
Maybe.
argue the other way, like, oh, I'm smart enough to know I'm
Yeah.
gonna take out the mag and reload, but like, don't you? How would you? Because you have to take the mag out. Where would you put it if your thing's full? I don't know. Anyways, I'm
Yeah.
getting off
It's
track.
probably like it's too granular, I think. It doesn't matter enough. I think
It
it's fine.
doesn't matter enough.
But
It is
so
just
all of that,
confusing.
yeah.
Sorry.
All of that to me is like either stuff that they're gonna just have to do, and things that are okay about like copying the various gun systems and whatever. The stuff that I don't like so much is, as you say, like the gameplay loop as it stands right now, which we don't really know what that's going to look like, other
Mm,
than how it is at the minute, which is fine, right? But like the Tarkov quests are very similar to the Grey Zone quest. I feel like of all the things in the game, I personally think I feel very like critical talking about Grey Zone because I quite like it as like a base. But
mhm,
of all the things that are in there, I probably dislike the questing in Grey Zone the most. And I feel like it was maybe like overpromised a bit, based on what I heard previously, because they were like, "Oh, you're never gonna have like a quest where you have to collect like X whatchamacallit and
mhm,
3 thingamabobbins and then hand them
mhm,
in." And there's never also going to be any PvP quests to kill other players. It's all going to be
mhm,
like organic PvP. Okay, fine. So that basically excludes quests like find 3 slayers and find gas
right,
analyzers. All
right,
right, fine. There don't seem to be any barter items in the game anyway. I don't know whether that's like intentional or not, but there is no crafting, there's no hideout, there's no anything like
Right.
that in the game, so there's not really any need for it right now. So I don't know whether there's going to be that or not, because that's not there. No PvP quests. Okay, fine. Tarkov's PvP quests, normally people don't actually really like them very much. They're usually set up, parts of Shooterborn, bits of like Punisher. Everyone hates playing Lighthouse now for Punisher. They never like doing Shoreline for the billionth time. Like PvP quests in Tarkov, actually, people just generally don't like that much. So I don't think it really makes much difference. So what we're left with, we're left with quests like, Ron's Pocket Watch, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or like any of those ones where you have to just like go collect a thing and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
And all the quests so far that I've done are either like kill scavs or go and collect like a thing from a
Mm-hmm.
location and bring it back. And I really dislike that they've gone for that particular model of everyone has the same quests from the same traders
Right.
in the same order, that the item spawns in the same place for every
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It's what I said in my like critical gray zone video about like the wikifiable questing. As
Yeah.
soon as one person does it, no one will ever read the quest dialogue ever again. There has to be a better way of doing this, right?
I didn't read it at
Otherwise,
all.
yeah, like you're not connected to the game. Like you
Mm-hmm.
read it, like you read the sort of like final sentence, and then
Mm-hmm.
if it seems kind of unclear, like maybe you'll skim through the text, but like nobody's invested in the lore at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people are, and I feel bad because
Some people are.
I know
Some people
someone
are.
worked on this, and
I
they probably
know.
put a lot of effort. But I'm sorry, I'm a gamer, and I don't want to sit there and read.
And the thing is, but you have to do it with the game design, right? Like, did I read the sort of like the text dialogue and blah blah in The Witcher 3? Sure, I did,
Mhm.
because it was designed in a way that made you want to and like have to in some ways, right? Like it was important.
Yeah, in some ways, I didn't have to read because I just skipped down to the. It
Yeah,
has
and it
three
says, "Oh, go and
pictures.
collect the thing," and there's a picture or whatever, a coordinate, and then
Yeah,
there's a picture of a garage or whatever. You're like, "Okay, well, I
which
just got to like spot the difference, and then go and pick up the thing."
I didn't even realize those were coordinates. I thought for like I was thinking like room number, which didn't make any sense because it was like gas station, water tower, and some other thing I had to
Yeah.
go visit. And then eventually it dawned on me. I was like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, but like I've talked about this a lot with chat, which is that I would prefer the quest to be much more like multi-part and make you go and do stuff. And there's another thing that really just takes me out of the game. And I had to sort of like, I had a debate with somebody about this in chat the other day, um, which was about how one of the first ones is like, this is more of like an intel recon mission. You have to go in and find the stuff and like don't cause a disturbance or whatever. And there's not really any way to do that. I don't know really how the stealth works, like whether that's even possible. I feel like no, probably. And you just go in and you kill literally everything and you go and grab the stuff and you come back, there's no consequence. And it makes me like, it's like to me, and this is like personal preference.
Hmm.
People might disagree. Some people will agree with me and some people will disagree. It just depends on how you feel about it. But to me, it actually like dilutes the lore and the flavor text. If it says like stealth is important and then it blatantly isn't, it feels fake. It feels like writing for writing's sake. Like it's not connected to the game design. So why even have it? Like it's pointless, right? It's like a
Hmm.
piece of storytelling that then
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
it's just like what, why? Like
Yeah,
and it doesn't really even seem like any
it's
way of
effectively like
doing it.
flavor text. Like
Yeah, but
you
you
loot
just
a
skip over.
sword, and its flavor text is like this was a sword of a great and mighty king, and blah blah. But
Yeah,
it's like
and it has
doesn't
no
matter to
bearing on anything.
gameplay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
If
I have in my mind like a very basic example of it says like, oh, you go to a dead drop or whatever and like go and
mm,
pick up your instructions. So you like turn up somewhere and then you like open up a letter and it says, okay, you've got to go and like recon this building. And like maybe it could be like one of a few different buildings, right? Make it like slightly more dynamic. You have to like go and take some photos of it, whatever, and like find a path in, identify a path, like and have it like multi-step. Don't just like give you the whole thing in one go. Like kind of like lead you through some of the stages of it, especially early on. I know that they're sort of in this like, oh, we kind of want people to do it like however they want, like make a plan or whatever. But like, it's not really how we work, right? We just go, hey, mate, have you done that quest where you have to go and find the box and the thing? Oh, yeah, it was in this bit. Let's just like walk in, clear everything out, and go and grab it. Like, people don't value their especially in this game. People don't value their lives in the same way as they do in real life. So it's not. You don't have to meticulously plan especially if you could just helicopter back in and grab your stuff, right? This is another thing. This is like I'm sort of touching on an unrelated area here, but it's well, not unrelated, but a different area that's very closely connected to this, which is that you can just like chopper back in and grab your gear. So like dying doesn't really matter. So you don't need to plan particularly because if it goes wrong, your buddy could just like hold your
y-
position, especially if you're fighting AI.
yeah, I mean, on that point, I did notice watching that death seemed very inconsequential. Like I won't say who, but I was watching some people and they were like in a bunker area and
Mhm.
someone died and they're like, oh, I'll be back in 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
everyone just kind of carried on, which was like it wasn't like a big deal or anything, which was just like I don't know. It's just and it's like weird too because it's like do I really have to sit here and fly in the helicopter for like 5 minutes and then like or you know what I mean? It's like almost like I said, I felt like the helicopter thing. I know it seems like a little thing, but it feels like a very big sticking point to me because it's like very cool the first time you see it, but then repeatedly it's like, okay, this is kind of anyways, getting off topic.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. It's like but it's kinda necessary, so it's the whole thing's, like, a bit confusing. So, yeah, I don't know, like, I just I don't like the way that the questing has been implemented. It feels like I'm doing Tarkov's quests again
Yes.
in this game already.
Yeah. 100%.
Most people who are playing this game, not everybody, but a lot of people playing this game will have come from EFT,
Hmm.
and I think we are gonna get bored with doing that very quickly. Especially, like, go back into the starter town, like, 15 times. Like, if
Yeah.
the other day when I was playing with Hayes and a couple of the other guys, I was just like, "Well, all my quests are still in the starter town. Let's just go off. I'm just going to go with you guys and do whatever you want to do because, like,
Hmm.
I don't want to be in there anymore. I don't care. Like, I don't care enough to go and like grab the whatever. Like, I'm not bothered about that stuff. The only reason why I'm doing it is to get trader reps so I can get to level 2 traders. Like,
Yep.
that's the only reason I'm doing it. I'm not
Exactly.
doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because the game forces me to.
Yep.
And I just don't think it's like I don't know. And
I,
I'm not sure. It's just that I think it's probably the weakest part of the game right now.
yeah.
Just on the
Well,
playtest.
to piggyback off your point, I think that doesn't help at all because I think with Tarkov, we tend to put up with the questing because we enjoy the general gameplay and the
Mm.
loop. Whereas for me, this gray zone like gameplay did not feel very good for me. Like, I mean, it's tough criticizing it because I was getting practically 40 FPS. Um, but like just the movement just felt really like the first thing that I hated immediately was like when you sprint, you can only hold W and you can't touch anything else. If you touch A while sprinting, it like cancels it out. But as
Mm.
soon as you let go of A, because you're still holding shift and W, you'll go sprinting again. So you have to like do this weird like turret thing where you're like running and
Yeah.
sprinting and like turning, and it's just like it just feels I hate it. But like when you're walking, uh, if you hold W and you touch A or D, you'll just like go in diagonal in that direction at the same speed. But if you let go of W and only hold A and D, you go at a slower speed.
Yeah, when you're just strafing, yeah.
Which is like I don't know. There's like that like oh that's bothering me. And then I'm just gonna like list out a bunch of things. And then when you lean for whatever reason, you walk extremely slow. Like
Mhm.
the slowest speed like what we have in Tarkov. Imagine that, but there's like someone like scratched up two different knobs at the bottom of the speed slider. It's even slower. It's so incredibly slow. It makes peaking like strafing like in my limited experience because I got headshot before I could even see the guy. Like he was around the corner and I couldn't shoulder swap, but right there's no shoulder swapping, right?
Don't think so.
Okay, which I don't know if it even mattered, but anyways, I left peaked extremely slowly and got headshot. But AI is crazy. Whatever. Point being, it was just like, well, I'm never gonna do that. So the gameplay was just like really like awkward. Like it just, oh man, so much of the movement stuff was just like killing me, Giga. And then jumping, which I know people said, but jumping felt really like out of place compared to the rest of the game because everything's so like it's like a mill sim. It's like I kind of see what they're going for, but then jumping is suddenly it's like I got moon boots. Like it feels weird, like this feels a bit out of place. I don't know. Um, I can't really say much about anything else. Like shooting was like fine, I guess. I mean, the AK felt pretty bad to shoot, but it's just hard to say because I was literally playing on 40 frames. And then to clarify
Yeah.
the performance thing, I think this game is if they keep the visual quality at where it's currently at, which is like extremely high. Like I don't know the details, but it seems like vegetation and it's just rendered at farthest distance possible at highest quality possible it can be. So your VRAM is just constantly, because there's so many textures, it's just like
Mhm.
constantly capped out. So like I think this is probably like a 12 gigabyte video card game, which automatically puts you most cards in the higher end category. So I don't know. I feel like they gotta like do something about that, because that's just gonna like cut a ton of people off from
Yeah.
like getting anything remotely playable. Like I wouldn't even
Yeah.
imagine what like an entry level card would be like for this.
It's true. Like, you me and you have, like, mid-tier machines, right?
Hmm.
Like, we don't have anything insane, but we don't have any like, it's not crap, right? Like mine,
Yeah.
like a 5800 X3D with a 3070 is, like, solid, like, decent mid-tier. Like, the 3070 is starting to get a little weak with the VRAM thing,
Yeah.
but, it's like, solid. But like there's got to be there's tons of optimizations that they're gonna have to make to this stuff, right? Like when I was flying in the heli and like turned to one of the points of interest, like my frame rate like halved or whatever, just like looking at it, because there's loads of assets in there.
Yeah.
It's like the rooms are full of stuff, which looks great, looks fantastic. It's like DayZ towns or like PUBG towns, but populated like Tarkov with things, which is cool. It's great. But like
Yeah.
they're all loading in like when I can't even see them through the like tops of roofs and stuff like that. And the LOD is like not tweaked enough. So like I don't need to see all that stuff or have it all load in while I'm flying in the chopper. As you say, that like the visual quality of it is crazy, right? I turned everything on low eventually just to try and like counter it and put DLSS on. And it's like you can still see shadows like miles away on various
Yeah.
bits of foliage and stuff. So like I get what they're going for, but they're gonna really limit their target market if like,
Hmm.
you know, our machines are like not really capable of playing the game. So it is problematic. I mean, going back to your movement issues, I think some of the movement stuff is just like getting used to it from like Tarkov, whatever. Like it does feel weird, especially where you can press forwards but not strafe. And then you're not allowed to like lean makes you super super slow. Like I've kind of got used to it a bit after playing it for a little bit, but like I do think it could be adjusted. The thing that gets me the most about movement is like vaulting. Like vaulting for me was like super super rough, especially after playing
Hmm.
it for a bit now. There's only one key for both jump and vault. Some walls you can, some walls you can't. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I end up just like rubbing my face up the wall like 3 times to try
Yeah.
and go through. Like it needs to have a separate key for vault so that I can try and vault without jumping, because
Hmm.
you lose stamina and it just the whole thing just feels terrible. I really don't like the way that the vaulting is just all stuck on one key. Again, that's like probably easy to do, right? Easy to fix and replace out. Like having vaulting in the game in the first place is the hard part. Being able to separate out onto different keys is probably quite easy. But yeah, I think they probably could speed up some of the bits and pieces. In the end, like as I said, I didn't end up minding it too much for most of the movement. I kind of got like yeah, I kind of got used to it in the end, like feeling that you can sort of only run in a straight line. There's like some deliberate design choices they've made, like you can't reload and sprint like you can in Tarkov.
Oh, I didn't
That's
even notice
that's like
that.
purposefully not in. There was a debate on that on Twitter, and the CEO was just like, "We don't want people doing that."
Hmm.
So that's like a thing. So like it is slower than Tarkov. The movement is slower, and the inertia is. I wouldn't say it's necessarily worse, but I feel like your like player's body moves a bit more. Like when you like
Yeah.
if you shuffle position, your guy like shuffles his whole body, like the camera shifts the whole
Oh,
way when you
that.
move,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So it feels like in some ways it feels like your player's like more of a real person rather than just a camera. So like kind of is like immersive sort of,
Hmm.
but it might end up just being annoying. I'm not sure. Like I have to play a lot more to figure out whether that's good or not. I don't really know. So like I don't know. It's like this is the thing that a lot of people have been asking me about. Like, oh, is it worth it? Like, if the game comes out, do you think it's gonna be worth buying? Blah blah. And I'm like, if the game released today for like $40 or whatever, like no, you wouldn't buy it as it is,
Hmm.
right? You wouldn't play more than 100 hours of the game like now, because there's nothing like what's there to it? It's like a load of like quests to go and grab stuff and then maybe PvP like incidentally on the way. But most of the content's not there. There's like not enough stuff. There's like looting doesn't really there's not really anything. Like because gear fear is so minimal and you can go back and get your stuff, your gear matters less to you too. So like maybe it'll matter more. Like I have had like both situations where we've died and then someone's come back and got their stuff, but also where we've died, but another team was like controlled a town. I'm like, we just couldn't get back in. And we all lost like 3 kits each. So I have had both of those. Like, you can't always get your stuff, especially if it's in PvP with another team, and then the other team is like decent and waits for you. There's just no way to get your stuff back because, like, do you want to lose another kit to them? Like, you don't know where they are. Like, they're
Hmm.
in the building somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
they see you moving through. Like, they see your chopper come in for a start, and then they know you're coming, and they just wait, and then they kill you because you don't even know where from. And they could have moved since the last time, and they're just stationary. They know that you're coming back for your stuff. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think it's
Well,
necessarily a given in PvP.
oh, sorry, let me start.
You're right.
Um, can you bring gear when you die and come back?
Well, yeah, because you just start in the base. So you could just like
Okay,
put another loadout on and then just go back on the helicopter.
I figured as much. I just have to verify that's the
Yeah, it's
case.
just like, but because it sort of makes it a bit like, it's, I actually don't mind it too much. It does make it kind of interesting because you're like, well, if I bring a second gear set that's like decent, I can't bring my first gear set back because there's
Yeah,
too much
that's the
stuff.
first immediate thing that arose to me.
So it's like, I can go and like try and avenge myself or whatever, but
Yeah,
they've got enough time to go and loot me anyway if they wanted to. And if they want to
but they
wait,
also
then how
can't
am I going to
take all
find
your
it?
stuff.
No, true, but they can't take. I guess they don't care so much because they've still got their things. Like
Hmm.
you're like, well, I'm bringing a whole second set of gear, and if I win, I have to leave, my body armor or whatever, my second rig or whatever it is. Like it's not necessarily that important,
So
but
is it just an ego thing?
I guess it depends what you bring with you. Like we'll have to see. I don't know. Like maybe it'll be more important later on. Like who knows whether there'll be good stuff. Like I just hope that there's, you know, in the Tarkov style, I hope that there's not things that are just like fully available in the traders up to level 4 all the way, and that's all the best stuff in the game. I hope that they avoid doing that, and that some of the best stuff is only in the ground zero in the center. That you can't get it from the traders. You have to get the best stuff from the middle because like that's how you make the compelling game loop. Like right now, given there's not really much loot, like in the military bits that I've been in,
Ah,
I could buy better stuff anyway.
it's just so much to like slog through to get
Yeah,
to that point. I just couldn't be bothered personally.
yeah. Thing is, like, yeah, like there's hardly any content in the game right now anyway, so I don't think it. Yeah, it's more of a tech. It's like a technical playtest. Like, we
Yeah.
shouldn't let that get in the way of what they might or might not do. Like, there's loads of cool things that they have the ability to do in this game that other games like can't do. Things like, factional LZ secure. Like, there's lots of cool ideas that I've seen people put forwards. Like, you can go and like capture an LZ, and then maybe that would allow your team to like go there, or maybe it would give you like access to certain pieces of equipment back in your base, whatever, and like make it more of like a territorial, like regional, like
Setting up.
factional kind of fight thing. Um, so it's not just like, oh, here's the map. It's like, oh, you have to go and
Hmm.
like get territory or whatever. Like kind of, it sort of reminds me a little bit of Far Cry 3 or whatever. It's like, go and capture points and things. So that kind of like gameplay in general is pretty engaging. It's always quite nice that. So we'll have to see. The thing is, there's so many ways it could go. I just hope that they have a way in mind and they're not just doing the playtest. Like they must do, right? Not just doing the playtest and being like, we're just gathering the ideas, and then we're going to do what some of the best stuff. I don't know. I hope they've got like a strong vision as to what they want, and that it's going to actually be like compelling.
So my guess is they are targeting this like gray zone of the Tarkov audience where it's like you want to just like play with your friends and have a good time. Like because they kind of solved some of the issues where you're playing with your friends and your buddy
Mm.
dies, and now they got to sit there for 30 minutes while you play the rest of the raid. They go on scav run, they play for 10 minutes, get out, and then finally they can play with their friends. I feel like they kind of like solved that, and they've
Mhm.
also kind of like merged this like single player S side because it's like definitely more PVE focus. Like all well, it seems like you're naturally gonna like progress to the center of the map because there's like three factions around the edges. And so a lot of the quests are going to start in the starter towns closest to you. So it wouldn't make sense that like this. It's going to make absolutely zero sense the start of the light for a faction from the other side of the map to come all the way to your
Yeah,
side of the map and PvP or yeah. And
yeah.
even
To
if they
get your
did
starter
PvP,
gear.
you get your start right. It's like the most biggest waste of time imaginable. Um, so, anyways, I feel like it's more of this like mil sim cooperative with a little like dash of PvP. thing they got going on. That's like you're
Mhm.
meant to like do these operations. Like someone kept saying Arma operation missions or Arma missions or squad or something. Anyways, I don't know. I don't know anything about
Yeah,
it,
there was
but
some kind of mod, I think. There was some armor mod which it was similar to, but I've not played it.
yeah, yeah. So anyways, I think that's what they're going for, and I don't know how they're gonna like ultimately monetize it. If it's gonna
Mm.
be a one-time thing, if it's gonna be free to play, if microtransaction, if it's gonna be like a hybrid. I could see them doing like a hybrid, like you pay $40 and then like they sell like expansions and like there's like missions or whatever that you and your
Yeah.
buddies could buy as a mission pack, or maybe one buddy has that. I don't know, but I there's a totally number, but that's kind of my general consensus, and like ultimately because that's how I'm interpreting it. Like it's a much more PVE style of game, and it's like very more on the milsamy side. I just don't think it's gonna like I don't think it's gonna be for me. I would if I wanted to play something like this, I would just go play DMZ because I just feel like that does like similar things, and that's just more enjoyable for me.
Maybe. That's interesting. I prefer this to DMZ
Hmm.
personally. This kind of style. Like obviously not in its exact iteration right it is as it is now, but like once it's fleshed out a bit more. It's certainly yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. It's really gonna depend on what they do. Like the one thing that I find kind of funny about it is yeah, when you start I quite like the tiering of the locations. So it's like you begin, you play in the starter town, you're probably just doing PvE. Then you migrate to kind of those middle locations between the PMC bases that you probably can, well, you might get into PvP there. And then you've got Ground Zero in the middle, which is presumably the high tier stuff where all the people are going to be from all the factions. So it's going to be just like bedlam.
Can you even go there in this current test, or is it just like
Not
walled
right
off?
now. I think somebody said they went there and they just like died to radiation or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just like it's not in there. It's not in the game.
Hmm.
Um, somebody said, "Isn't DMZ stopped?" Yeah, like they're not doing DMZ anymore, unfortunately.
I thought
But
they were. We just according to my book, they just checked it last night. Anyway, I don't know.
maybe stopping. I don't know. I don't really follow it,
Me neither.
but the PVE thing I find quite interesting. So like, yeah, it'll be PVE mainly to start with, and like Mad Fingers say, like, oh, it's PVE focused. But I think the way that the emergent gameplay will work out is that I don't think that it'll be PVE focused. I just can't see how that's going to be like how it's going to work in the end. I think maybe that's to like lure people
Lure
in,
people in.
kind of because it sort of, but like it's like you can just go and do that if you want, but it'll always be like the lower tier stuff, whatever. You can like go to the safer places, and that you're not just going to suddenly be. You don't just play customs, you get hammered by level 55 Chad right off the bat, right? The game's tiered like
Yeah,
that
I see. Right.
in such a way that you can like ease
Yeah,
your way into it without it being just a slap in the face right from the
that's a
day
good
one.
point.
So I think that maybe it'd be all right, and I think you'll like naturally gravitate towards it because yeah, there's no PvP missions, but like the missions that you get out of the starter town are in contested areas, so you're going to end up in PvP. It's like, but it's a bit like in Tarkov. Like, how many quests are actually like purely PvP and EFT? Not actually that many, and people just tend to like bang them out and then move on to the next one. Like most of them are like, go find the thing, go to the lighthouse,
Right.
mark this stuff, blah blah blah. Like the quests and the PVE is a reason to go to get you into PvP organically.
Hmm.
Like that's the way that Tarkov functions. And I feel like this game, regardless of what Madfinger say, I feel that this game is going to function very similarly. The AI is unsuppressed, is loud, is going to be shooting. People can hear it. You know, the quests, people have to go there as well, same time as you, and you're going to bump into each other, and then there's going to be PvP. Like, other than the tiering and like sort of the voluntary nature of where you go, like, oh, if I don't really want PvP, I could just like, mulch about the starter town. But if I want anything good, I have to go to these other places. Other than it being kind of self-led like that, then I don't think there's actually that much difference. And
Yeah.
so it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Like, unless there's like loads more PVE content that's coming. I mean, maybe, but if the questing is the way it is right now, like go here, like search out the front of this base, and actually, I didn't mind like going and searching for things. I will say that, like the quest where it was, because you probably haven't had those yet, but the quest where it's you know go to this new LZ point like halfway across the map, and then like go to the town and find the entrance and all this kind of stuff. Like those ones I actually didn't mind because they're sort of like go and explore the map quest,
Hmm.
which is cool. I quite like those ones. That's actually all right. But obviously they're quite easy as well. So that's not like a compelling gameplay loop in and of itself.
Hmm.
So we'll see. It just depends on what they've got planned. Um, the one thing that I do really like about the PvP is because I was really worried about PMC karma, because it's,
Yeah.
if you kill your own faction, you can potentially lose rep with your faction or whatever, get kicked out and all this stuff. But because everybody is like, they've made the design choice that you're going to have a real time map with all of your team on it. Like that makes such a huge difference because you can always identify your team on the map, even if they're like not on your Discord or you're not within VoIP range, and then that you don't know who they are. If they're on your faction, then you can always see them on the map. You know either to avoid them or go and like join up with them and do something at the same time. So that like makes the whole like teams work properly.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's a bit of a halfway. Like they're trying to like still stay within that bounds of realism, but like just expand it just a tiny bit outside of make believe
Yeah,
land. And like
but
I
I think it's
get
fine. I
it.
think it's okay compromise.
Yeah, but it's just like, oh, I have to like I see someone have to like get behind cover, press map. Yep, it's my teammate again. And then it's like it's just gonna be annoying because you just have to constantly press that button. And also there is everyone looks, I mean, this could be a fact because it's alpha, but everyone looks the exact same. There's
They do,
like
yeah.
no differentiation being like, I haven't gotten to PvP. I've seen players, but like I'm not gonna shoot any players. I'm in the starter, so you know what I mean? Like this, you don't have to say friendly. I know you're on my
Hmm.
team. Like it's funny too because I don't think the bots run. So like I made a joke like all I have to do is just sprint next to any PMC and they're gonna know I'm friendly because bots don't look like this. Like they gotta poop. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the I just yeah I don't know. I just feel like oh man like I don't know what you would do. I guess like differentiate like having like armbands would be like one way to do it, but I don't know. I just it's just one of those things that just feels like they really did not want to add like a little white dot above your ally. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
really did everything they could to not do that, which I just feel like I don't know what.
Yeah, I would also be okay with, like
Mm,
at this point, like I'm fine to sacrifice little bits of like realism because this conversation has been had before about how it's not necessarily immersion breaking to have icons and indicators to help you do stuff.
mhm,
Like that's kind of okay. It's more annoying when you just literally can't tell
yeah.
and you have to do the wiggle or pop up and down or crouch or whatever it is to do like a friend check. So I don't know, like I feel like it's fine. I think it's difficult because either without some kind of indicator that's passive, I think it's tough if you're expecting people to play like 16 aside on a faction without necessarily wanting to VoIP. Some people won't. So, there needs to be some ID there. And I feel that this is an okay solution. Like, it doesn't get in the way visually on the screen. I mean, I would personally be fine with both, honestly. Like, if you
Mhm,
really don't want people to interact in that way, then you've got a white dot on the thing, and then you've also got like the map marker. Like, we're halfway there already. I don't think they want to add the markers, but and again, I don't think it matters too much. So I think it's funny because the incentivization, there's almost like a weird social element to it that I think is like kind of neat, which is that the disincentive for like killing people in your own team partly is that, and it doesn't matter that much, but partly that you will probably see them like back in your base because you've all got the same base.
yeah,
So like
yeah,
you'll be like, dude, why did you kill me? Like, what the hell? So it's
yeah.
it's kind of that thing of like you do share a base, and so you're not just like dislocated from each other. You kind of can have a go at them or whatever when you get back. Um, there's the sort of that social pressure not to just like kill
Hmm.
the guy because like you will see him later. It's not like a raid where you
Yep.
die and then you're in with all different people.
Which we
So that's
talked
like
about, or like I've
interesting at
talked
least.
about, which I like stuff like that. Like I think the
Yeah.
social element's really cool, but I don't. That's what worries me about PMC karma. Like I was almost tempted. I mean, I was tempted, but I resisted. But I just wanted to like just murder this guy just to see what would happen. But I did, and I resisted. I did try to kill people inside the base, but yeah, you can't kill NPCs. Sad. I was trying to
Yeah.
stab him with my shank.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just like It's fine what they're going for. I'm not really sure what else more to say about it. I just if like as long as like I can identify visually that it's my teammate, like we've we've played in Tarkov and like there's enough clothing items and gear differentiation that usually we can tell
Mm.
each other. But sometimes you run into things where like, oh, the guy had the exact same backpack and the exact same shirt as you, so it looked like, you know, I thought that was friendly when actually it was a bad guy. But anyways, I just feel like if you're gonna have factions, like they should be differentiated somewhat.
Yeah. It'd be cool if they had like different guns and things like that. Not like
Yeah.
crazy different, but some different things that are
Hmm.
equivalent between the different PMC factions, or like some different mods or attachments or whatever. I think that would be kind of cool as well as the different clothing, of course. I think that's probably coming. I think the differentiation between the factions is coming, especially like clothing wise. I don't know whether gear wise, but clothing wise in particular, I think it is coming. But yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, it's just
I
yeah,
get.
the questing thing worries me the most. But like, other than that, like the gameplay, I'm enjoying it honestly. Like, I think
Hmm.
it's kind of fun so far. So it's nice to have something different that you can just. And again, I don't know how long lived this will be, but it's like I'd rather boot this up than DayZ probably. DayZ just takes like such a commitment. Um, versus Tarkov, like you're not going to have as much action as the EFT. It's
Hmm.
like more open, but it's that middle ground between the two, and it's like choose your own adventure, which Tarkov sort of is in some sense, because you can go and do a quick one and then just exfil with the heli. But like right now, because there's no Tarkov's main gameplay loop is accumulate the cash, go in, loot the stuff, and
Primarily, yeah.
leave. There's always that to do. If you go in and you don't see anybody, or you don't find your quest or whatever it is that you're doing, and nothing happens, at least you leave with a full bag of stuff, or you die, right? Whereas in this, because there's no loot outside of some like military stuff potentially that you can like wear and use, that makes it like more problematic to be like, why do I want to go out? Like, what do I want to go out for? And also, if I could buy stuff off the traders,
Hmm.
then it makes the looting sort of pointless. And then it makes the looting other players pointless, which then makes PvP
Right.
pointless. So the whole thing like ends up sort of devolving back to being
Exactly.
like, why do I even ever leave the base? Like, why am I opening up the game at all?
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of thing in DayZ. You start with nothing and you have to scavenge everything. So that's like a gameplay loop in and of itself, and you gear up until eventually you do die, which you will. It's like a DayZ is like DayZ is kind of like playing like a hardcore run in the way that the game functions.
Hmm.
Whereas this is sort of it's more like Tarkov, but with the economy removed. So
But
there's got to be
I
something
mean,
else. There's got to be something else big coming in 1.0 to make it more compelling to play on like
yeah.
a long term basis. Like the gameplay's fun and the PvP's fine, and you can play in just for PvP if you wanted to, just to attract down other players. Like that's fine, but you need something else if it wants people to play it like long term over another game with PvP. Like it's not that much different really, other than maybe a quicker version of like DayZ PvP with like no actual outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely. I think the most interesting part for me is the factions and the live world stuff. And I was like, I don't know that whole side, like them talking about trying to figure out karma. Like I just like, please do not do anything remotely like scav karma. Like then I really won't be interested in your game.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, because I think, yeah, there's just so much potential with that. But one thing I did want to mention about gameplay loops is like Helldivers comes to mind because what I really like about it, and like it feels um very unique and dynamic. It's like you boot up the map, and it's like you get to pick the mission, and then you got to figure out where you want to land as a squad together, and then you
Hmm.
land there, and then it's like, okay, what do you scan your area? Oh, there's a artillery sieve thing we can set up. We can do that side thing. Oh, we could go over here and do this. Oh, but there's a tower over there that's blocking our jammers. There's like so much. Yeah, it's like it's. What I'm trying to get at is like you like constantly have to like it's like the game does you do all the same stuff, but it's like variants in between. Whereas
You're
like
changing your plan and whatever. Yeah.
yeah, whereas like this is like okay, it wants me to do quest number 1. All right, quest number 2, quest number 3, and it's like every time that wipes you can do it over again. It's just that's the part that's like, God, out of all the things from Tarkov that you inspired from or copied, whatever, this is the one that you took. That's the one I just can't get over. It's like I would have loved if like you had to like build up your base or territories or something, and you had to go like gather resources from the different places on the map, and like bring it
Mm.
back, and be whatever. But it's like give me a compelling reason to constantly go out, not here's the next set of stuff that you unlock so you can go and do more stuff to unlock more stuff.
Yeah.
And we ran out. Let's wind the clock back.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I agree. Like, I genuinely think that the questing loop is like the weakest part of the game. Like, there's lots of cool stuff they could do. They are like limited slightly by the function of the way it is. Like, they don't have a raid instance based thing like Tarkov, so you can't really. I mean, you could have a stash that only you see, like a hideout or whatever, like crafting or something. I don't know if they wanted to, but you can't really do like a bases thing because the worlds aren't permanent. It's like if you leave a server and rejoin, you're on a different server. So your play session is
Oh, I see.
session orientated. So it's like, how do you then share that permanence between players in the same world?
Oh,
Right? It's
so is
like
that
it's tough.
sorry? So that's how it works. Wouldn't you? Because I did get kicked and I rejoined, and I was like, oh, am I gonna like? I'm gonna be on a different server. Am I gonna start back at 1? And I, didn't start back at level 1. I had it. It kept
Oh,
my.
yeah. So you're the same character. Okay,
Hmm.
so if you get DC'd in raid,
Hmm.
when you rejoin that server again where you were. But if
Oh,
you
okay.
leave the game in the base and rejoin, you can just reassign you to any old server. But you're still your player character, right? So your player, it's a bit like the Daisy vanilla servers where they all share progression. So your level or whatever is the same because you can't pick a
Gotcha.
server. So your level of progression is like that's the same across every server. But each server will have different PMCs on it. So doing things like area capture and control,
I see.
it would have to be like session oriented rather than like map permanent oriented
Hmm.
some way, or unless they kind of join them all together in some way, like the Hell Divers type system where you go and like you beat the
Or
outpost,
your
and then it adds like a
yeah,
capture point to the overarching one where all the servers are
that'd
kind
be
of in a
cool.
three-dimensional layer, like they're all layered on top of each other, and if one faction goes and beats the stronghold on multiple servers at once, but then it kind of gets into a bit of a weird sort of like we've captured it, but then we need other people to capture the same one on another server. Like it all gets just a bit weird then. So it needs to be session orientated to do that kind of thing. Um, Maybe like if you complete certain, I don't know, yeah, if you complete certain bits or you capture certain areas of the map, you get certain bonuses for a week or something. So you like keep some bonus or some upgrade or an unlock or whatever it might be. Something that's like semi-permanent to keep you wanting to like go back and do stuff. I don't know, like anything like that kind of needs to be something like that needs to be done, I think. I don't know. There's so many ideas. Like it's just so
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
so
I'm
like
just gonna say I don't have the solution, but I can just point out the problem or
yeah, no,
something that
exactly. And
yeah.
people are talking about all kinds of like zany stuff from like
Hmm.
basic things like having like in Far Cry 3 you have like AI patrols like going around on quad bikes or whatever, which make the world more dynamic. Because some people are actually talking about Helldivers as well, being like if the game world had just patrols of AI going through in the first place, it would make it feel a lot more interesting between points of interest because you have to kind of like plan to attack because that's kind of how Helldivers is, right? But it's like on a very concentrated basis. It's you've got these like roving columns of stuff. So you either decide to avoid them or attack them, like they might be in the way, or you might get pincered between two of them, whatever. And that's kind of what like that constant evolution keeps it kind of interesting. And it was the same in Far Cry. You can't just like be on the road because there's patrols of enemies and that you get rid of them by capturing territory. So it's like you need some system like that in some format, like but there's a billion different ways of doing it. Demirian chat saying like maybe have improvised bases which become spawn points and don't persist across sessions and things like that. So you have like make a little like fob across the map.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know.
I'm
Like
sure
there's
there's
so many
something,
ways it
but
can go.
like
This is the problem. It's like they're and this is the thing, and this is the whole point about the game. When people say like, "Is it good? Is it worth? Is it going to be worth getting when it comes out?" I'm just like, dude, I don't know. Like the game right now is a very nice leafy blank canvas.
with frog.mp3 in the background.
With frog.mp3 on the right ear and mosquito.mp3 on the left ear.
And tree.jpg in the front of your face.
Yeah, and also 5 kilometers away, which is half of the problem. But so now they've got this like foundation. They need to build on that.
Yeah.
To make the game. Like I wrongly hope that what we see now isn't the game. Like they said, like 70% of the content isn't just not here.
Mm-hmm.
Like the basis of the you go and do the starter quest, like that's in the game. Somebody said to me in chat though, which I thought was quite funny yesterday, was they were like, "Oh yeah, but like these quests, they're probably just placeholders or whatever." I was just like, "That's what Battlestate have been telling us for 8 years."
Oh no!
Like,
no, but seriously, this time,
yeah, seriously, this time it's actually placeholders. It's like, oh my god, I can't do this again. I can't do this again, man. I just can't.
yeah,
my
I mean, it
god.
feels like they put in, 80% of their work in like graphics and like visual presentation,
And
and
like
like
map building and stuff, like assets within the maps and those kind of things.
yes, because all that looks like really good, and it's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's a lot, and I'm like putting too much of a percentage because now I gotta like really break down my percentages. But anyways, everything else is in that 20% category. But I just, yeah, I don't know. I think overall, I feel like it's gonna be a game that's gonna be in a lot of people's radars, especially the way they've done it. Like I said, graphically, it looks really good, and it's the classic case of you watch a trailer or you watch a game and it looks great, and you say to yourself, "I can't wait to try that," or "I can't wait to play it." And it's like they already got you hook, like line and sinker. You haven't even touched the gameplay, and they already got you. So yeah, time's gonna tell on this one for sure. But I really think, just my own biases, I just don't think it's gonna be a game for me based off what I've seen and played thus far.
Yeah, which is fine. I think it would need like a really compelling, like novel mechanic to make it.
Yeah, I need like
for you, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta have like, if I'm gonna like put up with this stuff, I need I need something that's really compelling. Otherwise, I just can't be bothered.
Yeah, I want something that's like very different from the Tarkov formula and very different from the DayZ formula. Like I don't.
Sorry, I was gonna say, fine. You want to like do PMCs and this whole like gray zone idea. War is whatever, money. You're whatever, blah blah blah. Fine, but like, I don't want to play Tarkov 2.0 in the jungle.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what I was about to say. I don't want to play DayZ 2.0.
Yeah, there's
which is
sometimes
exactly
a lot of
what
running.
I was going to say. Yeah, it's just like there's some running, like finding stuff, whatever, and it's like I don't just I don't know. It's just such a tricky one. It's like with like no fleet and just traders. It's like
I feel like that's a bit of a
before.
miss.
Like, traders are kind of a problem. Like traders are a problem in Tarkov. Like they need to be not a problem in this game somehow.
Well, it's like you got this whole like faction, like you got this whole like social element sitting on the outskirts. Because right now it's like you're social, but only with your allies. But like I don't, I just, the whole karma system, like the whole point of the game for me is like gray zone. It's like there's nothing's black and white. Wrong and evil don't exist. It's a gray zone. So like if we're all in the same faction, but like I'm playing the game called Gray Zone. It's like if I got a job to do this and you're obscuring it or whatever, I should be able to like take you out. You know what I mean? And like, but all suddenly big karma comes and hovers over you, and woo, you now jam every 5 shots. Woo! It's like that. What? So you're telling me it is black and white? That's like my frustrating part. And it's like, as you said, they can really lean into that, because then it's like you go back to base and that guy's like, "Why'd you kill me?" And he's gonna get all of his buddies, and now you like got this little mini faction wars going on. It's like, yeah, we hate 669 X God. That guy sucks. Yeah, boot him out. He gets booted out. And he goes over to the other faction like, "Ooh, oh, they kicked me out. Can I join your faction? There's like so much draw, and it's like all this is happening in this one server. Meanwhile, on the other server, it's like a utopia. Everything's fine,
Yeah.
society's thriving. But you know what I mean? There's like so much there. That's what I'm afraid it's gonna be like pure scab karma. It's like nobody's ever
Yeah.
gonna kill you. It's just like
That's actually a very good point. It's like gray zone warfare, but like white, do not ever kill your own team. Black, always kill the enemy PMC.
yeah.
Like there's no like because people aren't gonna be working together, from the different PMC teams. Really, there's like no way.
You might.
You might, but like
simply because it's a quest completion game, so it might be in your
True.
best interest for you both to complete the quest so you could get to the middle of the map.
True, actually, yeah, it might. It might actually. It might. Maybe that's the real twist all along. Like you need one
That is
person
the
from each
gray
faction
zone.
to like finish the game in the middle. Yeah, I don't know. Like it would almost be more interesting if you started like factionless or something.
Mm.
I don't know. Like if you started with no faction and then you have to like join one of them or whatever, but it's like much more freeform and like different factions have different things available to them and stuff. You'd have people like defecting. So like, oh, they've got like a huge shipment of like,
Yeah.
M4s or whatever. Like we're all
Dude, that'd be
defecting to
so
Crimson
cool.
Shield. Like that would actually be a lot more fun. As you say, like lean into the because I was thinking like how do you lean into the social element more? But I think like that's maybe it. You make the faction allegiance because that's one of actually the biggest problems with the factional system right now is that you can't leave and you can't play with your friends that aren't on the same
That's
team.
what I was
Or you
gonna
like
say.
you can, but you can't squad up with the same friends. So you can like try to get into the same server, but you can't actually be in a squad, which means you can't matchmake together, which is actually a huge problem. Whereas like
Yeah.
if it was much more like you could keep that system, but if you could like leave one faction, like maybe it would like destroy your rep with that faction, whatever. And they were like literally hunting you down with like bounty hunters or whatever because you like gone against your own faction to like join another. Yeah, there'd have to be penalties, but like that if it can like that would be kind of cool. I actually feel like there's legs to that idea.
There's yeah.
Like you start with no
There's
faction, and then
so
you
much
decide to
there.
join a faction for benefit or whatever. Because then it makes it easier too. You start with no faction means you don't have to. Because there's another one of these things, right? Like the game came up for me because I hadn't really thought about it that much. I just like dreamed it and started to play, which was like a terrible idea. But the game like popped up and was just like, right, choose your faction. This is
Yeah.
going to determine who you play with. And I was just like, oh crap, what's everyone picked?
Right.
Like I'm just gonna have to choose one.
Yeah.
And Geekster was like the day before he'd like sent me a message on Twitter, basically being like, oh, you should run some raids with us at some point. And I was just like, okay, I'll just like go and look at his latest VOD and see what team he's on. And just like choose that because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to play with him at least. I was like, I don't know, like I have no information to make this decision. So if you then like started factionless, you wouldn't have to choose. And then if there was some flexibility to go from one faction to another, it would like add a whole layer of like intrigue. It'd be like kind of interesting because you're a hired gun at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like IRL, you probably could move from one PMC faction to another. Obviously, probably is like frowned upon, I'm sure, but I'm sure it's like possible. I'm sure people have done it. And like if there was different benefits to different factions, you could I don't know. There's something there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. For me, I
That's
think
kind of
that
cool.
would be like that one mechanic that we talked about. Like that would be it for me, probably.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope they go in that direction because like how they have it set up currently is like really great. Like it's a bit like the cycle. The best thing about the cycle frontier was that the servers like you loaded in instantly, and because the world or the map was alive for like 8 hours, I think something like this ridiculous, and you hopped in and you had no idea what was going on. It's like you're playing a raid in customs and the raid's been going on for 4 hours but you don't know that you just popped in. So it's like
Yeah.
it was great. It just made it way more dynamic. Best thing about it wasn't enough though. It wasn't like enough to carry the whole game itself.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel
Exactly.
like they have something very cool going on here with the factions and the maps alive, but like I don't think that's gonna it's at least it's not enough for me personally.
Yeah. Like based on what we've seen. The thing is like it's hard to know between what we see, what we've
Yeah.
heard, what they've told us and what they're thinking, like, and not telling us.
Mhm.
Because they've got to keep some of this stuff secret. Like, we don't really know what their plan is for the middle of the map. But if it's just like more quests, like it is now, it's like, I don't think that will work. It's got to be something much more than that. So I'm intrigued as to what they have like planned. I didn't actually. I wanted to like listen to, because I'm like doing a feedback video at the moment. I wanted to like go back and like listen to more of the stuff. Like now that I've played the game, then it'll be interesting to like re-listen to some of the interviews and things, because it'll make a lot more sense, right? Like without playing the game, whenever I was listening to stuff about Grey Zone before, I was kind of like, okay, but like I don't really like. There's no context. Like I've seen the trailers, but and we talked about this previously. You know, you watch the trailer and you're like, well, players don't play like this. Like it's
Yeah,
hard to get a feeling for what
the
that.
actual emerging gameplay, the actual
Yeah,
gameplay. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And exactly to the point that I was making earlier about like the questing. Like they've got a whole video with the PMC dude about the quest, the rat's nest or whatever, and like how you'd complete it IRL. And that's like very like how you'd actually do it and da da da. Like I've completed that quest in the game now, and I linked up with somebody in the game just randomly, and I said I was looking for this stuff, and he completed it before. We killed all of the enemies. I'd never been to the location before, and he showed me where the thing was. Like that's it's so different to the way that it's portrayed. I think this is maybe an issue just with like devs, right? Because they have this sort of, I'm sure not completely, but like to some extent they have this like utopia idea of like how people are going to interact with the game,
Mhm.
and then like the gamers show up and just it's like, you know,
Rip it apart.
the beautiful pasture with the scenic route going through. Oh, look at all these like how these things weave together. And the gamers turn up with the huge lawnmower and just like drive through all the barricades and just get to from point A to point B in like the minimum possible, like you know, the easiest possible way. Um, so I almost feel it's like expecting too much of people. Like you have to, you know, we're really quite simple creatures at the end of the day. You know, yeah, you have to like bear that in mind and handle us through stuff. Like there's way to do questing well, and like I still, it's been a long time since I played The Witcher, but like some of those quests are still memorable now, and they're not really they're not really that much more different, right? It's like yeah, they're more world built and they're more handcrafted. Sure, that's fine. If you're going to do static item drop locations, then you can afford to do things like that in some ways. Have things that are a bit more interactable, whatever. Um, but yeah, just like multi-step quests where like one of the best quests in Tarkov is like delivery from the past. You know, things like that are better. You're like, oh, we've got to go to here and then put the package over there. Like those things are sort of more interesting. They add risk and blah blah blah. But if you want to like add story and stuff, then it needs to be way more than it is now. It needs to be like integrated way more cleverly in the game. So oh yeah, I don't know, man. It's like it's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. As we saw with the cycle and with Marauders and a whole bunch of other games, it's difficult to have like you have like your unique element. You're like, oh, this is the thing that's going to make this game stand out, and it's like that's 5% that is required to make it unique. But the 95% of the rest of the game has to actually work like adequately and compellingly. Otherwise, it's like people aren't going to play for more than 10 hours or whatever, and then put it down. It's tough. It's not easy. Not
Yeah,
easy.
and I mean, there's clearly a ton of work that's been put on the graphical side, which like I think it's gonna pay off for them. Like it looks
Mhm.
really good. Um, at least at my 67% resolution scale, it looks pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing about games is like to like touch on a point you made earlier is like you're effectively making systems. And
Mm.
I think of it a bit like making policies and like politics or like systems and structures. It's
Very
like
similar.
yeah, it's like you create. It's like you have an idea. It's like oh, I'm gonna do this and it's gonna be great and they're gonna use it like this. It's gonna be great. And then nope, it doesn't work. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
not how things work. Great.
Yeah.
Or like something even like worse happens, like it gets used for like an unintended purpose in the most awful way possible.
Yeah. These things that like politics in particular is like so rife with that. You know, it's like,
Mm.
here's a problem that's like, 95% of the system works well. Here's the 5% problem that we want to solve. So we're going to throw away 40% of what works well, and we're going to replace the 5% as well and fix that. And then it's like, okay, well, now we've got a 40% problem. It's now 60-40. It's like the collateral impact of like of doing certain things. It's always an issue.
It's classic BSG patch one bug, 5 other old bugs reoccur. It's
Evil
just,
code.
yeah, truly evil code.
Evil code reappearing. Yeah. So I mean, look, I have high hopes. Like they've got technically it's pretty impressive anyway that they've
yeah.
got like no loading screens. The map's like 42 kilometers wide. You can just fly around it in a chopper. Like it was quite stuttery for me in certain places
Mhm.
while I was streaming, but off stream it like performed a bit better. You know, there's
Yeah.
clearly a billion optimizations that are coming, but as a alpha test, a technical test, I think it's very impressive.
Yeah.
As a gameplay test, like as we've said, there needs to be something. There needs to be a je ne sais quoi, as they say. I don't know. There's something. I don't know what. You know.
Needs that X factor.
Yeah. There's an X factor that's kind of not there because, like as we've seen with Helldivers, like a PVE game can be incredibly compelling.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, right? Like I didn't expect myself to play as much of a PVE game as I have, but there is
Yeah.
something there that makes it really like interesting and cool. It's like a mishmash of elements that's different every time. You're kind of strategizing on the fly with other people, and it's like hard enough to make it interesting, but not so
Yeah.
hard that you always lose.
And you can scale the difficulty as well. If it's not
Yeah,
enough for you, you can make it harder. If it's like too much for you, you can make it
yeah,
easier.
and like some of those elements transfer over, right? With like the starter town, the medium town, the ground zero in the middle. Like there's some of that stuff that's there too.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. It's hard. I'm very interested to see their plans. Like I genuinely think I'm going to go back and like because there was an interview with Mara. The most recent interview I think was with Mara on the podcast.
Yeah, I was
So
actually watching that the other day. I only probably got about halfway through.
like I only watched the first bit, and then because I normally listen to all of the podcasts, but I think I was like preparing to go away and stuff, and I ended up just like not getting time to listen to it. So
Mhm.
I'm actually sort of pleased because I'll go back and listen to it now with all this context of being like, okay, now I know what he's talking about because he's like, you know, the main man in the middle.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, he's like part owner of the studio and stuff. So I think you know they're not. I don't know how much like external funding they have. I think they will. I think they might all be like completely self funded, but they've got these other games as well because they're not like as we've
Yeah.
said previously. They're not just a game dev studio that's just popped up out of nowhere to make Growzone, right? They've made a load of other stuff, so they're funded by virtue of having like a mobile studio business previously.
Yeah, that was one thing that I didn't really ever figure out what he meant because he was talking about, speaking of like X Factor, he's talking about like this fame system and this one mobile game shooter.
Hmm.
Um and it was kind of like this, like I guess the idea is like you're trying to be like an infamous arena shooter person in this universe. But anyways, I couldn't really see enough to really understand what he was talking about because I looked up the game. Um, so yeah, maybe that's something worth reinvestigating,
Yeah,
trying
I'm
to
intrigued.
understand.
I'm very intrigued. I have to go watch like a bunch of old Rilo videos and Mara interviews and some of the stuff that they put out themselves now that we kind of know what the deal is. But watch this space. Watch this space. I'm definitely still going to be putting some time behind it and like
Yeah,
following it pretty closely and seeing what happens because I am interested. And from a content perspective, like it's interesting for me. There's enough in the game for me to look at. You know, they've got like the ballistics. They've got, you know, I'm looking at all the bullets in this game, and I'm just like, okay, we know what these are, but like, what's the difference in this particular game? Like, one thing we didn't talk about is how you don't have any health. There's no health. There's like you don't have any
oh,
HP. There's only blood and then organs and damage to those organs. There's like
that's a
no
good
actual health,
point.
which is weird. And there was a bug originally where AI was taking like huge amounts of damage, but I still think people can take huge amounts of damage and not die. Because if you shoot somebody in the arm like 15 billion times, you cause them to like bleed. And I don't know if you like lose blood every time you get hit. That might happen. I'm not sure because then it would kind of be like health, or whether whether the blood loss just gets like more and more and more serious. But people could take like a lot, and especially AI could take like a lot of shots to the arm because it's like non-fatal. I don't know if there's like whether arteries are in there or not at the moment, but like yeah,
Hmm,
like extremities could take a lot of damage.
let me
You know,
see.
if your head gets hit, then you die, and if your heart gets hit, you die. But like your different organs can be hit, and your bones in different like places, like arms, legs, whatever. Which is, and it's sort of similar to Tarkov, kind of, except that there's no like health pool, so there's no like straightforward calculation but like if you lose enough blood, you fall into a coma. So if you're on your own, you effectively die. If you're in a team, you're incapacitated and you can be gotten back up. But it makes it kind of annoying playing against the AI, in my opinion. Like I don't know whether it's necessarily a good innovation. And then like every bullet has its like expansion characteristics, like
Mm-hmm.
how much it like fragments and tumbles through a player. There's like the cavitation and stuff. So like HP bullets, they obviously make it like a huge expansion. And if that touches a organ, then they die. That was apparently the bug. They were like making too thin cavities, so they weren't touching vital organs and not killing AI supposedly. So you like AIs were tanking like 6 shots to the chest, like unarmored with like HP bullets, and everyone's like,
Okay.
"Dude, what gives?" Like, this guy's like actually like ripped to shreds. Um, AI like armor, I'm not 100% sure. It looks like they've already got a plate system in there because when you like hover over in the
Yeah.
armors, there's like front back sides, which is either like grayed out or lit up depending on
Mm-hmm.
like which armor it is. So like that's kind of there already. So I don't know, like that's a bit interesting. So I'm like gameplay wise, I'm just not sure if that plays out well or not. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. But look, it's certainly interesting. Like, they've got like ballistic gel blocks in the game. They showed that demo with the ballistic gel and different bullets having different expansions and different
Mm-hmm.
penetrations through different materials. So I'm looking at like US rounds versus SP rounds for the 762 AKs and going like, okay, well, like what's actually the difference here? Like, which one's going to expand more? There's a lot of cool stuff like that that can be done from the content perspective. So like, I'm kind of
Yeah.
intrigued about that. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
I've
Watch this space.
already seen YouTube guides for quests for the game. It's not even out
Yeah,
yet. Like,
yeah, I
oh my
know.
god.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I'm definitely going to wait on that. Like, yeah,
Bro.
I'm not putting out quest cards on YouTube for like a closed alpha. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought it's just funny. I mean, pop off, get that grind. Um oh, the one other thing I was gonna say, just like a really minor thing, was the modding system and the stats. I
Mm,
thought it was just weird that on like the base gun, everything was at 0%, but then when you add
yeah,
stuff, it adds a percentage, but it doesn't have like a value shown that it's changing.
yeah.
So
Like
it's
that could be
like,
the same in EFT. Like you could make the system could just display differently. Like it wouldn't necessarily change the game that much, other than like having a value. You
yeah,
know?
but it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what the thought was there, because like it feels pretty important for me to know how much is actually, like, what am I changing? Is this a really small value that's getting changed? Because then,
Oh yeah, yeah. I know
you
what you
know,
mean.
it's like I don't really have any information. It's like, how much bigger is 1 more% on this dispersion? I don't know.
Yeah. And what does this person even mean?
Yeah, I mean, I have like a vague idea of what it means, but what does it mean in the context of this video game?
Hmm.
Was like another thing.
Yeah, like recoil control. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess it's amount of jumps, but like what exactly does that do?
yeah. I would
Not
just
always
like,
obvious.
anytime I have like like choices and menus, I just like to have a pretty good idea. Probably more than what the average person wants,
Yeah.
but that's kind of just me. Yeah. So that's kind of it for Gray Zone, I think. Unless you got,
No, I think that's it. I think that's it for me on Grey Zone for sure.
yeah, we'll have to see. It's gonna need more time in the oven for sure, but I think it's probably gonna do fairly okay. Simply because it's just got a lot of marketing behind it, and then
Mm.
once they're ready to release whatever business model they go with, I'm sure it'll do okay. I don't know, but right now it just
Yeah.
seems like it's gotta cook a bit more.
Yeah, it's got a lot of eyeballs on it, so I think
Yeah, for
like
sure.
and it looks good enough that I think they'll regardless of whether people end up playing 1,000 hours or not, I think
Yeah.
they'll do okay financially out of it, which is like good at least, right? They put the work
Hmm.
in, so fine. Whether it will be a genre defining title is another question,
Hmm.
but at least, I think they will do okay based on what we've seen. So any other topic to close out?
I guess just as we wrap up, I'll just talk about this one game that my friends got me to play, which was a lot of fun, and I just love everything about it. I'm gonna play it again. We played it on our Cyberpunk RP session. We played it afterwards, and it's essentially just like the zany little like arcade shooter. It's called Friends vs. Friends, and the footage is courtesy of, well, not courtesy, but it's from it's from Cartoons YouTube channel, YouTuber, and yeah, it's basically a arcade shooter. It's got a very cool art style. It's got a very cool like when you boot up the game, you're like kind of like in a hub world,
Okay.
but you can switch back the menus, and then you like get on the bus when you like join a party or like a queue, and people join the bus. Anyways, so you got these like characters. They do different abilities, but the catch is you got cards and you have a deck. So it's a first person shooter with like a deck building aspect, which I love. I love so much. So you got these like weird zany things like one like poison. You can poison the enemy. You could throw a bomb at them here. There's ones that like make your head smaller, make the enemy's head bigger,
Oh, that's
speed you
wild.
up for a bit. It's so much fun. It's like 1v1 or 2v2s, and it's so zany. There's like these like wild cards you could have in your deck that like make the floor lava or make you into a giant. There's it's just
It
it,
sounds like a first person shooter ability draft from Dota.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's
like
kind of like that.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's I just can't. It's like a game that I played, and like because it has this like progression system, right? Like you unlock more cards, you buy
Mhm.
packs with like in-game currency.
Oh, cool.
Um, you unlock more characters. You get skins. There's not like microtransactions, but there's DLCs that have like purely cosmetic stuff. But this whole like model, I could totally see it being like an EA thing where like you buy a booster pack for card abilities,
Mhm.
There's none of that in this game, like with real money. But I'm just like it was so much fun. I'm just like, oh my god, like I'm so glad this is made by like an indie studio, not like a big you know, corporation because it'd be like
Yeah.
riddled with microtransactions. Because the concept is so fun, dude. Cards, deck building, FPS multiplayer, and it's like it's sweaty enough, but it's also just like zany enough that it's like it's just fun.
Mhm.
And the rounds are like super quick. Matches is probably like 5 minutes. Oh, it's so good. I can't wait to
Is
play
it
it
like
again.
ranked? Like if you're playing it on your own, is it like ranked matchmaking kind of thing? Is it like
I don't
competitive?
know. I haven't tried playing on my own yet. Like we played
Yeah,
for
okay.
probably like 2 to 3 hours that one night.
Because you could
Yeah.
imagine it being pretty competitive.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like, yeah, I mean, we were like all on the same Discord channel, so we couldn't like strategize that
Yeah.
much, but you could totally strategize, otherwise. And yeah, for sure,
Mhm.
there's so much you could do there. But yeah, I mean, if you got like a group of friends, or maybe you just want to try it out or whatever, like, highly recommend this game. It's relatively cheap on Steam, I think. It's a great little. I love the art style too. It's like pixely, um, but it's like 3D pixels. Like I don't even know how to describe it really.
Yeah. It's a unique art style.
It's got
Like
so much character.
3D pixel cartoon kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
everything's like very bold outline and stuff. Like it's pretty neat. Is it
yeah.
only pistols? Like are there other guns?
There are the guns, but they're cards, so you gotta like draw them. You know.
Oh,
So like
yeah,
each
yeah.
round you have your deck. I think it's like 25 to 50. You need a minimum of 25. You have max 25 cards, but the round starts. You draw a bunch of cards, and then that's your cards for the round. So like, for example, one build I was like making or a deck, my character has the innate ability to double jump, and so I was like,
Mhm.
oh, this would be good for like bombs and stuff, so I could like throw them a bit further. And then I got the grenade launcher unlocked, so if I draw the grenade launcher, I'm like, great, that's like great for my build. But then I also put in dual wield. So if I draw both the grenade launcher and dual wield, I have dual wield grenade launchers for like, the first 4 shots or however big my bag
Yeah.
is. But it's like so fun when you get like combos cards,
Mhm.
or like sometimes it's just great because it's that variety. Sometimes you get like more of your support Buffy cards, like yeah, this game is so much fun, dude. It's so good.
Yeah, there's a recurring theme with a lot of these games that are decent, right? And it like harkens back to what makes like other games like Dota and things like that great, which is that you can have like the same map, like the same, like a lot of the stuff's the same, all the items the same, blah blah blah, and like with Helldivers and things like that, where enough things are randomly changed each round
Mm-hmm.
to make it feel different every time you play.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like certainly a reoccurring theme. And obviously it's helpful if you've got like a procedurally generated. I don't know, you know, in Helldivers, I'm not sure if it's just completely random. I don't actually
Yeah, I'm
know,
not. I think it's probably a bit of
but
both, but I'm not even
maybe.
positive on that.
But it's like I think it is. I think the stuff's just placed randomly on the map because
I
like
I'd
sometimes like
imagine.
sub objectives are like there's probably like minimum radiuses and stuff like that, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's like random enough, so you never really know. Like you can't, you have to do it in real time, and like with this one, you don't know what card's going to come up. Like there's just like
Yeah.
there's something about that where yeah, and like in Dota, you don't know what, you know, it's different team comp every time, and like keeping some things, because having everything change all the time is just like crazy. But like keeping
Yeah.
some stuff the same, it's like you've got your deck, so you know broadly what's, and this is, I think that's like a fine line there. There's a fine line between like
Mm-hmm.
some things you can control and some things you can't control, and it's fun to kind of ride that line of like, okay, I know what can come up and I'm strategizing, but like it might do, it might not. And I've still got to like work it out on the fly how to best play like this
Yeah.
round based on what's appeared. It's there's something in there. I can't like I feel like I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's like something in there game design wise which makes all of these games appealing across like wildly different genres, but the same like underlying principle. There's more to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. It looks good though.
Yeah.
I might
It's
suggest it to my friends. We'll be going. We're gonna go to like a LAN like later in the year.
oh hell yeah.
So I might suggest it to them then because that looks fun. We're always looking for party games to play at these. Like last time we ended up playing like golf with friends for like 4 hours for no
oh
reason.
yeah, I've played that before. Good times.
So yeah, we're always looking for like cool stuff like this.
Yeah.
We probably won't play it until we get there, and then people are like, "Oh, what should we play?" Like we usually put a list together beforehand, and people suggest stuff, and especially if it's cheap, because like nobody wants to like pay $40 each for a game that we're gonna play like
Yeah.
for 3 days and then like
Right.
never play again. I wonder how much it is in pounds. I'm just gonna have a quick look.
Yeah, you have to tell me because I don't remember.
Is it 2v2?
1v1 or 2v2.
Okay. So in Great British currency,
Mm-hmm.
it is £8.50.
Okay. So
So
it's
it's
probably
probably
about
$10.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's cheap enough.
Yeah. It
I feel
like
like that's like price to perfection, I think.
well, it's funny too because there's like a battle pass, you know? It's like I mean you
Hmm.
don't buy it, but they have like there's just like so much love. Like it's a relatively simple concept,
Hmm.
but like the amount of like love and like craft that went into this, like because like someone put a lot of work. Like the art style is great, and then like they clearly made incentives. Like when you draw, or sorry, when you open packs to get cards. Excuse me, mic bump. You there's like a standard one that gets you 5, and then there's a premium one that gets you. You're guaranteed one legendary card that you haven't had or something like this. But when you get duplicates, they level up your previous card and or level
Oh,
up that duplicate, so they can kind of like scale a little bit. Like
hmm.
version 3 is the highest.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. So you don't feel like, oh, I've got the same card again. You're like, very
exactly. Yeah,
cool,
yeah. And
very
there's like
cool.
dailies. You get EXP as you level up. You unlock more characters. Like there's someone clearly put some love and effort into this, and I it needs to be. I have to spread the good news of Friends vs Friends. It's an older game. I think it's only like a year out, but I
Okay,
think my buddy saw a video from a pretty big YouTuber named Smitty, I think is her name.
right.
Um, and so he's like, "This game looks like a lot of fun. We gotta play it." Like, all right, let's do it.
That's cool.
Well,
That's cool. I like it.
friends of friends. All right. I think that's gonna conclude today's cast. Unless you got anything else, Giga.
Nope, nope. All good for me. All good for me.
All right. Well, hopefully next week we'll be back with some more Tarkov stuff. Maybe we'll get an update on Gray Zone, how that's going, and what they'll have to say. And yeah, as always, thank you for your support and tune in, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye bye.